Greetings, hello, and welcome everyone. Welcome to DevChatter. My name is Brendan, and this channel here is DevChatter, and we are going to go ahead and get started. I'll give a brief intro here at the beginning of the stream. Glad to see some people showing up in chat. Hello, Average Guy, Miha. Welcome, welcome. Good to see some people here. Hey, Voight. Welcome. Hopefully everybody's having a pretty nice Saturday. It is crazy warm. Our weather here was a little bit nuts. I am late today a little bit because I was out at an event in a city near where I live, and it started pouring rain, and so we were just, hanging out underneath the, I guess we found shelter next to some buildings and awaited the storm to pass us by before I could get home. But hey, we're here, and gonna write some code. Yeah, Voight, I missed a few streams, so we will be writing some more code today. Hopefully everybody caught our first DevChatter Basics episode that went live this morning. Would have been 3.5 hours ago that video went up. If you don't know, I started up our DevChatter Basics series, which is a series that I have been intending to do for a long time, since, well, long before I actually started streaming here on DevChatter. When I was originally planning DevChatter, I wanted it to have two aspects. First one is I did want us to have live streaming and discussion going on, and that's what, where the name DevChatter came from. It's, discussions and really about community and chatting, right? DevChatter. And then the second aspect was going to be pre-recorded stuff that we were going to do. So there's a few segments that I wanted to do. One of them is DevChatter Basics, which I have now started. So DevChatter Basics is like foundational stuff. It is the basis upon which all of our other development is built. So it's the concepts that even if you do know them, it's important to make sure that you always have a good understanding of them, because it can help you to program other things at a higher level if you know how other things work. So our first episode was just a simple one on extension methods, which are very useful, and knowing both how to create them, where you come across them, why to use them, that sort of thing. That's what our first episode was. And the next episode that I'm working on is one called Types and Interfaces. So I am going to discuss at a simple level. This is not a deep dive. This is not an in-depth. It is like to get you an understanding of how types work, what types are available, and what they are within C#, as well as discussing then interfaces in the language as well. So hopefully everyone enjoys it. Yeah. All right, let's jump in. So where were we in this code? So this program we've been working on, for anyone that hasn't been here for these last few, and S&B coming in with the Twitch Prime sub 12 months. S&B, you've got a smiling Chatosaurus. That is awesome. Thank you for hanging out with us for a whole year. That is awesome. Yes, the Smilosaurus. Yes, that is the best way to show up to the stream is by clicking the share button on the any kind of sub. So that is awesome, and welcome S&B. Hopefully you're having a great weekend. Hopefully you did. I think you did manage to catch the video that I put out this morning, since I saw a tweet from you about it. Okay, so here's what we've been building. This application, it is a WPF .NET Core 3 application written using C#8. So if you want to talk the bleeding edge of .NET of right now, this is it. We are using all of the bleeding edge pieces that we can possibly fit into this thing, hilariously so even. This was our, yes, exactly, Griffin. we went a little bit crazy on this. In fact, I think, was this the application that I did it in? Hang on. Yes, it is. I used the null coalescing assignment operator in this project right here. This is it. So everyone who uses C#, pay attention for a second. You have probably never seen this operator. It was added in C#8. It's technically not like in, right? Because nothing that's in this C#8 preview is guaranteed to exist when C#8 goes live. Did I use... no, Miha, I have not used that one in any of our code yet, because this project, I think I do not have the null references turned on for this one yet. I am intending to do that, but it is not on this one yet. I have done that in some of my other projects, and it worked out very well. But this one... Hey Nate, welcome! Thank you for the 13-month Twitch Prime sub. Now I guess we'll just wait around for someone to come in with a 14-month, because we're clearly counting. So if someone's got a 14-month Twitch Prime sub to come in on, that would be awesome. And welcome, Nate. I actually just got back from the nice festival. Got caught in the rain. Okay, so this operator, because I mentioned it, I haven't explained what it does. It's really cool. So this is called the null coalescing assignment operator. So let me just write that to make sure you heard what I said. Whoops, let me stop the program so I can show you. I added this in outside of the stream. Whoops, null coalescing assignment. That's what this is, and I will explain what it does because people might not know it. So people probably do know that plus equals is do the operation on the left and then assign the value, yeah. So do the operation on the left and assign the value into the variable on the left. So by the same token, a minus equals, again, is take the left-hand value and the right-hand value, subtract them, and assign them to the value on the left. So same concept applies. This one is apply a null coalescing operator and assign to the value in the left. So what this says is, if item is null, instead get this value, put it in item, and return it. If it is not null, just return it. So the right-hand side of this is only called if item was null to begin with. Now, someone that has a discerning eye and is paying attention will notice that it is still possible to return a null on this, because I do this as equipment cast right here. Now, there are some other ways that we can do this, which I'm not doing right now, but this little trick here will get that value assigned. So it's basically a don't bother assigning this until you look it up. And the reason I wrote it this way, I will explain, is that we, from our serializing, are going to get back this. Now, alternately, what I can do is I can write a custom I can write custom deserialization logic and go do that, but I didn't do that yet, so we're stuck with this. So, what did the null coalescing operator replace? Well, previously, you would have written it like this. Let me go ahead and go back to the initial version, and we can take a look at that. So let's take a look at the simple version. In that, we would say if underscore item equals null, underscore item equals, and then it's going to be this, and then we return underscore, yeah, I can type underscore item. So this is the standard way to write that. Now, obviously, I can adjust that and tell it, hey, go ahead and use this operation instead, where we say return underscore item, and we say if item was null, then we can say do an assignment into item. Now, here's the trick. This requires a bit of understanding about how C# works. This is why I like the new operation better. So this is the code that I would write before, and you have to have the understanding that the expression here on the right-hand side, notice it's wrapped in these parentheses here, the assignment of that value, this expression, it's like returned value, like the value that you have at the end of this expression is the item you assigned into. So it is this item value here, okay? So what that means is I can return this. So just generally speaking, if this were not here, I could return that value also, despite that this is an assignment statement, and you might be saying, well, what are you returning? And you gotta, that's why there's this important bit of C# understanding, is that the expression itself has a value, and that value is the item that you assigned. So you have to have the understanding that assignments return the value assigned. Okay, So with that out of the way, we can now say that this piece is mildly confusing. I think the new version, and using the assignment operator, while you have to have an understanding of what the operator does, I think it makes clearer what's happening. So this says, obviously, return this item, or if it's not, assign it and return it. I think this makes it a little bit clearer because we're not taking advantage of like knowledge about the language and are instead using an operator that says what it does. Could it work with a lambda? Void, yeah, it could. If this were a lambda type that we were returning, yes, you could have a lambda be the return value. Essentially, but we could call a lambda here as well. So it's any expression that's going to be on the right-hand side. That's the key. So, yep. Okay. Actually, that makes me wonder. Can I expression body this? Yeah, I can expression body that. Can I fully? Yeah, I could do that. And I could make the whole thing an expression bodied property and then and then do this. And we could one-line it if we really want to get crazy. We could just go to this. But people might kill me over that one just because they're used to seeing it written this way. So this at least shows that there's a return. So because we're trying to get to the point that people have this understanding. So, okay, couple of things. A lot of these changes to the language in C# are ways of making things more concise. In doing that, you need to make sure that the end resulting code is still clearer and easier to understand than it was before. So with this one, if all you're doing is doing a little comparison and your return value is a Boolean or something like that, absolutely use an expression-bodied method or property. Easy to understand. Everyone can understand that one. You just... because we assume the base level of understanding of C# for anyone that's going to read our code, which means with current versions of C#, people should know what an expression-bodied method and an expression-bodied property are. Even if they don't, frequently use them or know how to use them or the specifics about them, they at least know how, like, they can read it. Okay? But because of the fact that we're combining that with the null coalescing assignment, we want to make sure that we've made clear what's happening. So I think it could get confusing if we don't write it like this. And it's really not that bad. So just don't take things overboard is the short answer. Yeah, I mean, not a lambda, but the arrow syntax. Oh, yeah, void. Yeah, no, what we just did, yes. Yep, we can totally do that. Yep. I got you. Yes. We could absolutely do an expression body property on that. Miha, as long as you don't do it in the constructor, I'm okay with... Oh, you don't like the constructor one. You don't like when we do it here and we do one of these. So what Miha is basically saying is Miha does not want me to do this. I am going to show you the thing that Miha would kill me over. Item ID, name, enabled, cost, words. This is what Miha does not want me to do. Item.id, item.name, enabled, item.defaultPrice, words. This is what Miha doesn't want me to do, right here. This is it. Miha does not want to see this. That's legal, by the way. That code I just wrote, we're not leaving it like that. I should clarify. We're not, but check that out. Is that not the most, like what? Totally valid C#, everyone. Totally valid. Offlight X. You bought a MacBook today for 350 euros. That's really cheap for a MacBook. 15-inch. Oh, it's a 2013. Oh, okay. The funny thing being, MacBooks have not changed that much, so if it's still in good shape, you can use old MacBooks pretty well. Don't blame him. Copperbeardy. Don't blame who for what now? That thing needs to be burned with fire before it... Yeah, no. Hang on. Control-Z. We're gonna get rid of it. We have Control-Z. We'll get rid of this. That's going away. I just wanted to show you that is valid syntax. You can totally do it. Yeah. No. I was not suggesting. No one should do that. So In some of my explanations, when I teach C#8, so I go to conferences, I do talks where I explain C#8 stuff, I do show a couple of examples where that is not necessarily that bad a way to do things. If you really are doing like an XYZ kind of thing and you're almost using a point but you didn't use a point for some reason because maybe your types are weird or something, there could be a case where they're related, so you put them together like that. But no, in most cases don't do that, because people are not going to understand what's going on. Just write it like this. It's not worth the saved lines. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome, average guy. Just don't write it that way. So, all right. Hang on, did I save it? No, I didn't. Okay, so I should have left it up there just so I could explain what was going on with that syntax. Essentially, we were using tuple construction and deconstruction to single line these assignments. It definitely makes it shorter. Advanced level C#, but anyone else isn't going to understand. Exactly, Griffin. Yes, precisely. No, that's why you don't write the code like that. It's important to be able to understand what's happening there, because there are some cases where you might run into that kind of stuff, and there are some other languages where deconstruction is a more advanced feature because it's built more strongly into the language. And so if you come across deconstruction, it's important to understand that. So Python, for example, you'll run into deconstruction that looks like construction and deconstruction that looks like that as well. And really any language that has a mature tuple system is going to have that kind of stuff in it, and you could run into code that way. So I think it's important for developers, you know, when you're getting more advanced, to know that those exist, so if you see it, you can tell what's going on. But don't usually write them, because unless there's reasons for some of these advanced things, because people won't know what you did. Shorter for sure. Yeah, you don't just need to, exactly, you do not need to make things short just for the sake of being short. Yes, I should have warned everyone to sit down before they saw that. I didn't want anybody to faint. Had fun showing one of my devs a catch where condition. Oh, yeah. What Simon's talking about, this was in my old, in my old, like, C#6 and C#7 courses that I've done. So, what's new in C#6, what's new in C#7? A lot of people don't even realize that you can, in a try-catch block, you can actually have a where on it. So, for example, what's the syntax? Where, what is the syntax? Where, or is it when? It's when. What is the syntax? I can't remember. Hang on. Now I'm wondering, because I can't remember the syntax for this. C# try catch when. What's the when syntax? Yes, the when keyword. Where does it go? Catch. Yeah. Where is it? When and then. Okay, so it's when and then parens. Okay, that's what it is. So it's e dot message contains, you know, null reference, right? Or something like this. So then, like, you could watch for that. Or maybe you're watching for, you know, if the message contained the word Twitch or something like that, you could be like, oh, this was a Twitch exception. So that's the idea behind these whens. Yeah, thanks, Miha, for yeah, it was when. So you'd do this, so then you could have that for it was a Twitch exception, and then down here you could have like all other exceptions. So this would be like handling the general exception, that would be handling the Twitch-specific exceptions. Now, it is important to remember, because more than one catch could be valid, the order then matters on these. But this is one of those cool things that yes, a lot of people don't even know that is an option. I don't even know it's a thing. So the case where that usually comes up is when you're calling an API that did not use custom exception types when you're calling into something else, but they do use error codes or some kind of object like that. And then what you can usually do is you can detect error codes and handle them in specific ways. Like, for example, if you knew all the error codes in the 20,000s were some type of error and all the 30,000s were some other type of error, you can check for that and handle them accordingly. So that's what you do if you don't have type. Because remember, I caught an exception, but you could also have catches for specific exception types. So you could catch, say, an argument exception you know, maybe you have a special type of exception and they have a code as one of the properties of that, you could check that value as well. So there are lots of options like that. Or if you watch for an argument exception, you could say an argument exception, when the argument is this one, report back this error. So there's lots of choices like that. So very, very cool stuff you can do with try catches now. They got pretty massive upgrades in recent versions. So recent C#, so if you're using C#8 or C# 7.1, 2, 3, you have access to a lot of cool stuff that you didn't have before. Really, really great stuff. Type EX, when, bool expression. Yes, exactly, Simon. Yep. It came up with a code review was funny because as a recovering VB.NET dev, we used to have them since... Oh, yeah. Oh, Copper Beardy. Well, I'm always glad when people can see new stuff on the stream. Yep. Really, really cool stuff. This is one of the... Okay, everyone, I have a cool thing that I want to point out. This is one of the best uses of a comment right here. Required for JSON deserialization. Because the problem is, all of my tooling, Visual Studio would do this on its own, ReSharper does this, everything is telling me, hey, nobody's calling this, constructor here. And that's because nothing is calling that constructor directly. But at runtime, when we deserialize our objects, JSON.NET is going to call this constructor. Well, it'll call a constructor, and I want to make sure it just uses this one, and I don't want to have to specify it. And the challenge is that even if I were to say use this somewhere, again, you know, that might get cleaned up because it might not get used. It might not be, you know, used for anything either. So sometimes you just have to have a comment that says, hey, this exists for this reason, don't delete. And notice that I pointed out required for JSON deserialization. So that also has told a developer why. Because if you've ever run across a comment, sometimes they just say, don't delete, you know, required or something like this, right? So they might have written this, but that doesn't tell me why. So at some future date, it might have actually been no longer used. But because I wrote required for JSON deserialization, if a developer comes along and says, hey, we got rid of JSON deserialization, we're not doing that anymore, and they check and indeed we're not, they'll be like, maybe we can get rid of this, and they'll try, right? But we don't want them to try if it's still there. So it's cool stuff. Good use of a comment that I wanted to point out there. All right, so I'm going to check chat one last time, and then we're going to take a look at our task list and knock some stuff out. That's one of those things that drives you nuts. CodeLens needs DI awareness as well as CSV. Oh, yes. Oh, Simon, I 100% agree on that last part. So both knowing that at runtime something is getting used because it is probably lining up based on dependency injection or something like that. But the really big one that irks me that they don't get yet is when it's not reading the CSHTML file, or in our case, the XAML file. Remember, we're WPF. So I have a lot of stuff that gets used in this main window.xaml file, and the C# doesn't recognize that it's getting used, but it is because it's referenced inside of the XAML file, so it needs to be there. So that's one of those other big catches. Let's see. Since C#8, you're conflicted whether the or if it's still goto. Oh, Miha, no, it's clearly the null coalescing assignment operator is your favorite one. Do you think it would be a good idea to ask if someone could look into a bug in a project? Mine on GitHub? Yeah, Desert, if it's like, say, .NET specific, we have a .NET channel in our Discord, and you can ask that, or if it's like a C# thing, so trying to get it in the right place, but yeah. And for anyone that doesn't know, we do have a Discord community. It's not really like suited for like question answer stuff, though the group can sometimes help with that. I mean, if it's not something that you think Stack Overflow can take care of, then yes, people can help, chat it out with you to at least maybe get you in the right direction. But good discussions over there as well, and links as well to all kinds of stuff down below the stream as well as over in the chat. Okay. Let's take a look at that task list that I was alluding to. Task list. So, all I've got left is add to settings screen stuff. Okay. Do I want to add to the settings screen today? Or do we want to do something else? That's a good question. Does our help command do anything? These are the available commands. No, our help command doesn't do anything. Because it tells you the commands, but not how to use any of them. Hang on 1 second. Yeah, so Simon, the problem is my to-do list only has the things that I didn't really want to mess with right now because I don't feel like just copy-pasting some XAML. Well, actually, you know, there's some reasonable stuff to create in there. All right, we'll do it. All right, Simon, you win. You win. My XAML is terrible right now because I have not broken it up because I just hacked it together. But we'll go ahead and see what we can do about that. So, let's take a look at one. Which things do we need to have settings for? Equipment, items, and materia. Okay. Let's think about how we want to do this. Let's make a control for it. What did we do for status effect settings? We did that. Let's go to the equipable settings. It's right here. So the equipable setting has this. Its properties are, we're not dealing with item ID, that's not displaying. What is displaying? Name is displaying but not changing, it's static. So it is really enabled, cost, and words. Okay. The project's listed right there, Simon. What you talking about? Okay, this is a user control that we're going to create. So WPF user control right here, and we'll call this our equipable setting. And I'm actually going to put UC on the end, only so that its name doesn't collide with equipable settings. Okay, we now have a user control called equipable settings. How did we do this one, XAML? We did a border with a dock around it. Oh, or with a border around a dock. I will do that same basic structure. Dock panel seems good, I think. But if we need to change off of that, we will. Okay. So a dock panel in WPF it's a layout control, and basically what it lets you do is dock to the top, the left, the right, the bottom, or occupy the space in the center. In this case, I think probably, how did we dock this? We docked the label to the top, that is the name, so we put the name on the top, and then we put another dock panel in, we docked a dock panel to the bottom, that's funny, and then just did it that way. This could have been a stack panel on the bottom, to be honest. I don't know why I dock paneled it, so we're not going to structure it exactly the way this one is. Okay, so inside of our dock panel, the first thing that we're going to have is a label. And our label is going to display along the top. So for this one, the label is eventually going to be bound to one of the properties on our object, but because we don't have any sample data right now created for this, I'm just going to put in a value. So we're going to call this the Buster Sword. Buster Sword, because I can spell. Okay, so there is a little title. Did I come up with any things for this? Yeah, those will work. I need to put those styles somewhere, which I will do at some point. Okay, so Buster Sword. We'll make it nice and big so you can see what the item is. The design height and width need to shrink down because that's way too big. So we'll make that like 200 and this like 200. 175 by 200. There we go. A little bit taller than it is wide. Hey, Strife, welcome. I am setting up the settings for how we're going to handle equipment for this stuff. So that'll anchor to the top. Everything else will go down below it. Which, that's a good point. Why did I even bother with it this way? We're just going to stack panel with another stack panel in it. Stack panel didn't adjust that one. Stack panel. Orientation vertical, which is the default, so I don't really need to specify it, but I'm going to anyway because I'm a stickler for that. With another stack panel. This one, however, is going to have... oh, you know what? Let's just stack everything in here. Let's do a horizontal stack panel. And instead of label... actually, well, label's fine, we just don't want these values. We're going to make it... Actually, before that one, we're going to have a checkbox. Checkbox, content equals enabled. And let's margin 10, 0, 0, 0. So there we go. I pulled it a little ways off the edge. Which actually, now that I think about it, if I put a stack panel in here, if I put a vertical stack panel in here, I could just push this over by 10, and then that would handle that. So we're gonna do it this way. So we're gonna put everything in here. I'm gonna apply this margin to the stack panel instead. So that'll shift everything over automatically. And then in this one, we said we're doing a horizontal stack panel. It's all just Flexbox. Yes, Simon, it's all Flexbox, basically. We can do wrap panels if you really want, but my plan is to have this be a specific structure and toss them in a wrap panel. What were the other settings? There's cost and then there's words. Okay, so cost is going to be side by side because it doesn't need to be that crazy. So this is going to be, well, I guess it is going to be a label actually. I was just going to say cost. And before we say cost, we are going to have a, whoops. Hang on, I need to steal something from my other code. I need to grab this. Thank you. WPF tool. So before that is going to be a WPF tool. If you are not familiar with XAML, what those are at the top, effectively think of those like using statements. Anything that's up there is a namespace we have access to in our XAML. So think of it that same way. Watermark text box is what I want. Oh, do I even want this to be watermarked? No. You know what? This won't be watermarked. It's just... oh, wait. Yeah, we don't want it to be watermarked. We want it to be... sorry, we want this to be a integer up down. That's what we want. That's the word. Okay. What is it? Value? Value. There we go. Value equals 100 for now. Isn't there a property control like in WinForms that would just do all this for you? There might be, Simon. If there is, I would love to know what it is, because I don't remember. It's been so long since I'd messed with WPF that when I was digging into it, I could not remember all the things that I needed to do for it. Minimum is going to be 0. It can never be... maximum has got to automatically limit to int.max, I would assume. And what's the increment? Maybe 25? Okay. What comes after this one? The next one is the label. Label. Content. Words. And then after that is the WPF toolkit. This one we want watermarked. The watermark is going to be hello and welcome. Greetings. That is Gauditus. I probably totally butchered that. If I did, I apologize. And if you want me to try to say it better, I will attempt to if you tell me how. But welcome, thanks for that follow, much appreciated. And anyone else who's in chat and enjoying the stream at all, be sure to hit that follow button as well. So that's the best way to get notified when we go live. Let's see. Words separated by commas. Okay, so it is just text, I think. Katrina, hey, welcome, greetings. Yes, you now have a smiling dino as well. The Grinodon. Nice. Way better than the Smilosaurus, right? The Grinodon. Let's see. What do we want? Buster Sword would be Buster. Buster Sword. And like Buster Sword would be an example of what someone might put in this. Can I make this multi-line? Minimum lines 2. Text wrapping. Wrap with overflow. And on that side also, so that's what it would look like, roughly speaking. Which actually, this stack panel should probably have 10 down on the bottom as well, even though it's not needed right now. Do we push the top down? No, I don't think we do. Less from the top. There we go. That's not terrible. Words could be a little bit bigger. It is that by default, so... I wonder what the longest name of an equipment item is, and whether that's getting too big. I think that font might be too big with some of the longer ones. Okay, so we'll see how that works. No copper beardy, what? Or did someone mention Silverlight? No, someone mentioned Silverlight, okay. Apparently, according to the quick Google, the property control was a Silverlight thing. Oh, Silverlight wasn't that. I mean, like, it came around at a bad time, but it was really not that bad of a thing. It didn't go anywhere, but it wasn't bad. It worked. It did what it did reasonably well. Not to say everyone was using it, though. So, I think that works. So if we have a bunch of these, I think that'll... So we'll make these tile, essentially. And then we'll be able to set the values. The integer up, down. This needs an increased width, I think. How wide is that? 55, because some of these we might want to have be expensive. Someone might want one of these to be really, really costly. So we'll say gil cost. I almost want to shift these so the label's on the other side. That feels a little bit better to me. Gil cost, that's the value, and then up or down. Hey, Andre2G, welcome. Greetings. Would it cost 100 bits? Janisku, that is up to the streamer, and specifically with the Buster Sword, I could see Buster Sword being cheap or expensive. Could be cheap because, like, it's not a great item for the streamer, but it could be expensive in that, like, if you give it to the streamer, they might not really want the Buster Sword, but who knows? And Andre, there was someone named Andre that followed my YouTube channel. So if that was you, thanks for subscribing to my YouTube channel. And yes, S&B, it is not rigged. Oh, can we have a super retro looking and do error providers? I mean, we can if you want, Simon. Okay, hey, either way, let's see if we can make this work. So, status effects setting. So this is going to need to be an items panel on this thing. Did I do anything weird with these? Do these have anything strange in the back end? Nope. Okay, cool. This is expecting to have something bound to its data context. So for now, I'm not doing any binding, so no matter what you bind to this, we're going to end up with the same values no matter what, so it's going to repeat Buster Sword a whole bunch of times, but that's fine. If it repeats it a whole bunch of times, that at least tells me that the binding of the objects worked and it displayed it. And then we can actually bind the real values in there and make them change. So let's do it the easy way to start with. So we're going to open this thing up and... tab item, close, 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 and close. Let's open this one. One of these days I'm actually going to make this do real pages, but I haven't done it yet. So close down all of these. These are our borders. And I am going to develop this at the top and just move it to where it goes in the long run. So it is going to match this one, I think. Yeah, it's going to match battle settings. In its structure, not in the actual composition of it. It's going to have a similar structure to that one. Okay, so battle settings is at the top, but this is not what this one's going to be. This one is going to be equipment settings. Equipment settings. And equipment settings. Equipment settings. Let's go over here. Let's see what these values are. I didn't already have equipment settings, did I? Crap, did I already have equipment settings? I didn't look. I already have equipment settings. It's down here. What are you doing, Brendan? What are you doing? I already created this one. Alright, so here's equipment settings. And after those three values, we need to get into whatever's in battle settings on the same thing. So battle settings is a grid with a couple of things. And then... where is it? Oh! It is... oh, because it's a dock panel, this shows up above it. Okay, so then it's an items control that we want. Okay. And I apologize for this being kind of small here. Hey Beer Chug, we don't need the rarity of it, but yes, that would be a way of determining how pricey it would be. So for example, like Ultima Weapon should be extremely expensive most likely, but that'll come in our default values, which I've actually already set up the costs by default, and a streamer can then adjust them as they like. So this is a dock panel. That grid is the bottom. This text block is the top. So oh right, so that is the middle, sorry, and then this needs to be docked to the bottom. So our item control, which I just pasted in, dock to the bottom. Yes, okay, that did it. And its being enabled is dependent on is it dependent on enabled? So it is enabled if this section is enabled, and the item source is so I started with the equipable. Looks like the way that I did it, we need 3 of them. So I'll just start by doing weapons, and we won't worry about the other ones for now. So we'll start off with weapons. So we'll have all weapons. There's going to be the binding. It's going to be a wrap panel that wraps horizontally. And then inside of here, instead of the status effects setting, it is going to be equipment settings you see. The data context is going to be the binding with a margin of 2 around these objects, so there's a little bit of spacing between them all. And then that should make it work. So now when I run this, if assuming I didn't mess up the syntax in the XAML file or something along those lines, what we should see is Buster Sword repeated like, 80 times or something ridiculous like that. It is going to be absurd. It is not the structure we want in the long run, but yeah, look, it's slow to load the settings page. So here it is. Look, it's Buster Sword. Over and 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 over. Do we have enough Buster Swords? I think we need more Buster Swords. How many Buster Swords can we buster? That is hilarious. Okay, about that. Let's shrink this a little bit. So whatever sizing this has, we need to try and make sure that we can fit 3 of those in if we can. There also might be just a few too many of them. Which does make me wonder how to handle that. Seeing this with the value in here, that's a $100 item right there. I'd say we can cut that in half. Words can absolutely get smaller as well. So yeah, we can shrink that a bunch. So let's go back over into our equipable settings you see. This 100 width does not need to be anywhere near that big, maybe 60. There we go, that's much more reasonable. And then, did we hold the size of anything else? Design width? Okay, yeah. That seems fairly reasonable now. For them to be this size. Let's have a look at what it looks like this. Yeah, so Simon, the plan would be that each one of those little subsections would be its own user control, and what I'd like to do is, so by user control, what I really want to have happen is you go to the settings page, and the basic setting appears, but then I want it to be you click a button and it opens up the window or pulls in a section. Like maybe we'll do it like you load in a view dynamically when you want the settings for that stuff. So maybe tabs along the side and, you know, filling in the settings section as you go. So that's what I was saying. We need a better layout and view for this, but having the settings at all is good for now. Yeah, it's filling the whole space. Maybe it's because it couldn't fit 3, so it took the whole space because it can, because I didn't set a width on it. No, Simon, I was not planning on doing anything as advanced as the blades in an Azure portal. I was thinking just a standard settings view where you know, tabs along the side. So standard view everyone's used to. So not the fancy new one. Not the fancy new one. Okay, let's actually just set the width to 140. Well, no, because I want it to be able to expand to the size. What do we do? What do we do? Let's remove the word gill from that. We'll just say cost. We'll shrink that down. Are we now small enough that this will fit 3 of them side by side? Since I think that was the only thing holding a size. Like the Visual Studio... Yes, like the Visual Studio Options dialog, Simon. That sounds right. Nope, still doesn't fit, because it still is... I would think we could fit the third one in now. Makes me wonder what size the status effect ones are, because they fit 3 by 3. Let's take a look at status effect, see what I did with those, because they clearly fit. Huh. Apparently I didn't do anything special with them. Maybe it's this, because I set an actual width on the watermark text box? Yeah, wrap with overflow might not be covering it for us. Alright, so width equals 150. No, 130. 120. 110. Maybe set it to a max width of... WPF tool tags. Those are from the WPF toolkit from Exceed. So if you've never seen that before, if you did any standard like WPF stuff, that's what those ones are. So just out of that library, someone was nice enough to take the their toolkit and make it available in .NET Core, which is pretty cool. So they've got a handful of basic stuff. There's a pro version of it that we're not using that gives access to a whole bunch of other stuff as well. There are also toolkits from DevExpress and Infragistics and Telerik and all those other companies. I don't know if all of them have ported to .NET Core with their stuff yet, because remember, this is still pre-release, so that's why tooling is going to be difficult. So if you are thinking about doing a WPF project or a UWP project or anything like that, still consider maybe doing .NET Framework or talk to those companies and see if they have an option for .NET Core yet, so that you can get access to some of those, because we obviously can't get as nice of a design or anything like that without using the really nice tools, because we'd have to do all of it from scratch. But they've got some really nice stuff. Yes, as Simon is mentioning, the controls on .NET Core are almost non-existent right now. So, but again, remember, the WPF being on .NET Core is still in preview. So that's why, like, they aren't there yet, because, well, this isn't a commercial product yet. So we're just trying it out still. Okay, so let me see if that display is right. If that display is right, I'm going to start binding these in, because I do want to get this just to start showing the actual values. And the reason I want to get it three across is because it'll take up so fewer lines if we can get it 3 across. And in fact, I might give this section, oh wow, 4 across. Oh, that is nice. We might need to give space for the name to be a little bit longer, or cut the name off, like don't let them overflow or something like that. Might be the answer on those. Oh, that's so many items. Oh, okay, yeah, see, as Copperbeardy mentions, I am not surprised that Telerik has their Blazor stuff up already, because Ed Charbonneau is a Telerik employee, so doesn't surprise me at all. Ed does the Blazor State Has Changed Twitch streams on Fridays. Okay, so we have these nice little boxes displaying. Let's get them to show real values now. So instead of Content Buster Sword, what is it called? It is called name. That doesn't surprise me at all. So Buster Sword is going to be replaced with binding name. And cost instead of value is going to be binding. I believe this one is cost. And this one is mode two-way, because we want both the value to go in from our model as well as any changes in this text box to go back to our model. Oh, S&B, that's actually really good, because that is one of the challenges. Sometimes companies put features in like their super pro awesome enterprise only editions of stuff, and you're like, a lot of regular people would pay just for this one little feature, and they're never gonna buy it in that like big enterprisey package, because they really don't have, 5-6 figures to pay for the like giant edition of something. And actually, just for consistency's sake, I'm gonna say path equals cost and mode equals two-way on that. Next thing is going to be this one, which this text is going to have to be words, which we might not have any words yet in most of these. So we're going to say binding path equals words and mode equals two-way. Now there's some trick with the way that this works, because words is not going to line up right. So I almost want to make that like words text or something like that. I need to look at how I did this elsewhere, because I've done this elsewhere, and I need to see what this is. For comma-separated values. Oh, I need a converter. That's what it is. I need a converter. That's what it is. Main window. I have one of these. Hang on. I think I did a converter. Why did I? Oh, maybe I didn't. Oh, no, it's an app. Okay, so for anyone that doesn't know WPF, here is some cool stuff about WPF. So obviously, when you need to bind a value from your C# object to your WPF control, sometimes the control, like in a text box, expects to receive a string. But you might have a list of string, which we do. And so the idea is, in order for that binding to happen, we need to give some kind of understanding to this. So in our case, we're saying we need to make what's called a value converter. So that'll take a string and turn it into a list of string, or a list of string and turn it into a string. So it's just a way of saying, hey, let's put this in the way, and we'll do that. So we're going to use the command words value converter on it. And I'll show you the code for that. But this is the one that we need to use. I just needed to make sure that I knew what it was. Okay, so back over in our this, we're going to say value converter equals that one. So we need to tell it, hey, when you do your binding, make sure that you're using that converter. What's this yelling me about? I don't think that's true. I think that's just that's the editor getting confused and giving me that underline there. I don't think that's actually the case. I think it's confused. But we'll find out. We'll try running it. There might be a problem, but we'll find out if I messed it up or not. I think that's all we need to do. I think. Cross fingers. Still waiting to see if they fix the constructor DI train wreck in Blazor. Yeah, see, that exact point that Simon is mentioning is why we have not done a Blazor project on the stream here, is because the projects we do here, for the most part, are not throwaway and we keep them around. And for that reason, I haven't touched Blazor, because the state of Blazor is not stable right now. And that's good, right? That is very good for Blazor. We want it to be able to change, because exactly what Simon is alluding to, there's apparent, like, if there's an issue with how constructor DI works, that might mean changes for anyone using Blazor. And we want Blazor to be able to improve. And the only way that those kinds of things get better... Oh, here it is. Unable to cast string to value converter? Oh my god! Oh my god! I am an idiot. Static resource. Yeah, it was totally right. I was like, I don't know if that error is really correct, and the answer is yes, it is. Okay, so, derp. Let me explain WPF syntax to everyone. Yeah, it turns out when the IDE tells you you've messed up, sometimes it's right. Every once in a while, we're the ones that are right. Okay, so here's how this works. This is the binding that we have on that text box. We essentially said, yeah, thank you, S&B, that was a derp on my, that was totally on me. We tell it, hey, we're going to do a binding. The path on my bound object to the property we're binding to is here. So we're saying bind to the words property of my object. Make it a two-way binding, so any changes to the text box do affect my model in the back as well. And then take the value and convert it. Now, in order to use another resource that exists somewhere else on the page, in this case, our value converter is actually like statically created for the entire application when the application starts. And this is because we don't need to have more than one value converter, so it's easy to just declare it and have a handful of value converters available anywhere throughout the app. Because the cost of that is so minimal, the value converter is tiny. So this value converter I can just access as a static resource. So I just have to say, hey, here's the static resource for the value converter that I want to use. So this property requires that you've given it an actual value converter object. Now, if I were to, in the code behind, in my C# code, say, you know, text box dot converter equals, and then give it an object, that would work fine. But here in XAML, anything I've assigned is just a string. So path is receiving a string that it then uses to do the binding. Mode is taking in a string that it's going to parse into an enum. And this needs the actual value. So in order for WPF to give it the value instead of just a string, I have to do this. So that's what's going on. That's the quick explanation. Now when I do this, Buster Sword, Mithril Saber, Hard Edge, there we go. And then words are empty, and the costs are varying as well. So I need to wire in the enable checkbox, and words I think are always empty. So that is fine. And we have weapons all the way down to the mass immune. Can I go up from that? Oh, uh-oh. I can go up from that. Okay, I messed it up. Hang on. That's my bad. That's my bad. Can this handle... Oh, man. I don't remember what it is, so... what's a short? That is, that's a byte. That's a short. So... 65, 535. Whoops. Not that one. This one. $65, 535 is the maximum value of my integer up-down. So since I don't think there is a U short up-down, and there is an integer one, I'll just set the maximum value to the maximum value of a U short. And we'll be fine there. Okay. I need to wire up the checkbox. Content says enabled, and it is checked, is bound to binding, there we go. And we'll say enabled. And if I wanted to be really crazy, I could make all the other ones bound to that as well. But here, let's take a look. Oh, Simon, that's a very good point. If I pull in the... You're right. If I pull in the system namespace, I could bind specifically to a U short. S&B, that blue squiggly won't matter. That is a product of the .NET Core code not lining up exactly right. So all the WPF tools occasionally blue squiggly me. And in that specific way on those specific things. So these are all enabled. Those checkboxes should work as well. These should work. Ooh, that's interesting. It changes the size when we click in that. Not a big enough bug for me to want to fix right now. Let's do this instead to make it work a little bit nicer. Comma separated. I think we'll get the point across. Wrap with overflow, because it doesn't wrap the watermark, which is the problem. If it did, that would be nice. Yeah, so if you notice, now that it has run with it, it doesn't blue squiggly it anymore, S&B, see? So it's a temporary thing because it thinks it's a problem. Let's do now here's what I wonder. So if I actually put that in there, can it would I have to bind to it then? Is that how it would work? Or can I just yeah. Have you been crashed to desktop from WPF Core yet? Had a number of those, all very rude of you. Crash to the desktop from WPF Core? Not that I remember, Simon. Not that I remember. If I've had a crash, it's usually because I did some kind of a syntax issue like that one we just saw. We'll just do that. And man, this settings page is slow right now when it loads. It's got to load all these. Okay, good. So that fixed it. It's no longer doing the weird display. What did it do with long names? Ah, enemy launchers a little bit wide. Are there any other wide ones? Crystal M phone. Diamond knuckle. Yeah, some of these are slightly long, but that is actually really interesting that it ended up being evenly divisible by 4, all the way down to there. Oh man, so many weapons. They're not split by character yet, which we will want to do. Interesting. Okay, so that actually is not that bad, and you can enable and disable each item like that. What would be really cool in the long run is if we could actually include images of each one as we did this, but no, I don't think that's going to happen in the short term. So very, very cool. Now the question is whether or not these settings save. So I'm going to disable the Buster Sword and click save and see if the program crashes. I am not confident on that. Hey, it didn't crash. Well, that's positive news. I'm going to now open it up in on my computer, and I'm going to load it off screen. And obviously the reason I am doing that is because this will actually include data that I don't want you to see. Obviously. Okay. Buster Sword enabled false. Awesome. And if I load the settings, okay, that should have loaded them. Buster Sword still not enabled. Let's actually do a full reload just to make sure. Just checking to see did these values actually save when we did this. Now I haven't checked words yet, obviously, because we don't have any in there yet. But I can add one and try saving that as well. Yeah. Definitely hype time. Definitely hype time. Buster Sword came in enabled. No! Didn't load it correctly out of there. Okay. So I think what's going on is I think this is the same issue I'm having with the other one. I bet that I've got 2 Buster Swords or something stupid like that. Yep, that's going to be the issue. I'm going to have 2 Buster Swords. There's the second Buster Sword. So we're not loading in the data correctly. We need to nuke this collection before we come in. Hey, Plutonin, greetings, welcome. Plutonin, the reason why is this right here. The access token would be displayed in the so I don't show it here, but when you type in this box, see what it does? So it fills in like this, but that's clear text in the text file. So I don't want to show you the access token, so that's why it won't be on screen. So yeah. Glad we agree that I shouldn't show that on screen. But no, it was a good question, all the same. Yep. Because unlike some other streamers whose streams you may have watched, I have yet to show an access token on the screen. Because right off the bat, when I started streaming, I knew that that would be a problem, so I made this. And I could turn this on whenever I want to just, you know, have the no peeking screen on. But obviously I'm not going to leave it on right now. But yeah, like that kind, like I made that screen right off the bat because I was like, if I need to do something on screen that shows anything... And the stupid thing is, Simon, the number of times I told him, just make a hide screen. Because, like, sometimes Azure Mask isn't going to cover it. And it's like, just make this. Like, and so Mark has done it too. Mark Miller did it a handful of times. I like, seriously, like, I yelled at him a bunch, like, right when I started streaming. Like, would have been 6 months before either of them ran into that problem. And I was like, just seriously, just do this. Like... It's just a good idea. We're like, the number of times I've had to toss my no peeking screen up when I'm working on that kind of stuff, it's like, I'm like, I don't know where this is going to load, so just no peeking, and then we just won't worry about it. Okay, so that works. Let's try one other thing before we go on, and that is, I am going to try typing in some words, even though I know the save didn't work right. We're going to type in some words, just see what happens. No, but so as I said, like Mark and Fritz have both done it. They're awesome, smart people. That's just one of those things of like they never got around to doing it, and it eventually bit them. Hi there. These words, though, check them out. Now, the thing you might be noticing is that every time I finish this, it is one-lining it when I'm done. I was kind of hoping it would still apply the wrap. So what is happening here is because it's going through a value converter, it's trimming every time, because what's happening is it's turning this into a list and rebinding is the idea. So every time I change one of this, we get bound to what the actual value is. So if the value converter ends up manipulating these in any way, it's going to just immediately apply that. So that's why we keep trimming out all the spaces, and it ends up as comma separated. So for example, this comma and then a whole bunch of space, that. Notice it removes all the spacing. So that's what that's doing. Yeah, it's so the reason it messed with the width is because we exceeded this. So I'm not sure why it's not whoops, not accepting the wrapping there. But those values should still be there. I'm going to click save just so I can check my file and see that it altered it. We'll see what happens. Check them out. These words, yep, they're all in there and separated out exactly the way that we want them to. So, works perfectly. So, good stuff. Mark, no, we have not. We've not done that yet. Gareth, coming in with a 10-month resub. Whoop whoop. You'd bring Minxie to watch, but she's learning C# from your videos. Nice. That's awesome, Gareth. For anyone that was not here at the beginning of the stream, I have actually started doing our DevChatter Basics series on YouTube, which are going to be like recorded stuff, so not live streamed. But I have thought about maybe doing some of the recording for them live, so people could watch as I record them, which would be a little, you know, meta. It'd be the behind-the-scenes video, where you'd get to see all the hilarities of that. Because I was tempted to record to cut out a couple of. There are some really good bloopers in there and things like that. Because I actually recorded that first one during a thunderstorm, so like every once in a while I'd have to re-record something because like it's just like with like rumbles and everything. It's like, and waiting for the thunder. Yeah, like it is part of the challenge with trying to record stuff. Is if there's a thunderstorm, it's like, yeah, the mic picks up the thunder. Like I can just see it on the track. There's just like, here's these rumbles, like it's like, yep. Hey, Minxie, you did make it. Yep, good stuff. Okay, so those are working. So what we need to do now is fix the same issue we had with the other one, which I think I fixed already. I thought I did. But if I didn't, it's still sitting there and I need to fix it. I think it's here. No, it's not here. Is it here? No, it's not here. Okay, I didn't fix it yet. Crap. Whoops, I did not mean to click that. No. Although, actually, maybe I do want to look into how that works. To do, fix the array populating bug. Yay. Okay, so let me explain the array populating bug. So I was like, oh cool, we can just... So the reason why we use populate object instead of creating the object is because this will just apply the changes to it. So populate object will take the object and apply all of the changes that it found in the JSON. So what that means is if the JSON didn't find something, populate will not eliminate what was there. So if there was no equivalent, that way if someone gets a new version, their settings can stay the same and we can add in new features, and they're none the wiser because their JSON did not include those values. So that's why populate object is nice. Whereas if we created the object, we would overwrite the default values that I put on the object. Now here is what I mean. If you take a look, I have a default process name, I have a default number of subscriber bits, I have default values for turning features on and things like that. Those defaults would get overridden if we potentially pulled from JSON, because we might fill in other values because we'd pull them from JSON instead. So, in order to solve that problem, we do a populate, which just means take the existing object, so take the instance, and hydrate in the values that we pulled from the JSON. Here's the problem. If our initialization of default values included an array, that means that we are going to shove in an extra set of those values. Now, there's a couple of options for how we can do this. I can either make it so that those collections have some ID value, and so like there is a uniqueness or a key to them, which I want to solve it by having the serializer understand that, and then when it populates them, populates the object based on that key, which I need to look into whether or not that is possible. Alternately, what we can do is we can check for the existence of those values if they are in, like for those specific collections, and just hard code in that the arrays get deleted before we bring in the JSON data, or something along those lines, like clear them out and bring this in, or write in some logic that immediately following populate, we take the second instance of of all the arrays for duplicate items. If there's a duplicate, keep the second one. I don't like that option. That's why I want to handle it with serialization and understanding that the key of it is what matters, because I did put an actual ID on those values that is unique so that we can identify them. So I think that'll be a nicer approach, but we'll see. Anyway, Minxie Rose, you've been watching my videos to learn C#. Oh, that's awesome! Good stuff. Hopefully they're easy to follow along with. I did them not as videos that are designed to like educate you about all the concepts, but I wanted them to be like get you started kind of things. So sort of to like build the motivation, and then from that ideally you can learn all the concepts. So it's get you programming so you have the understanding and the fun and the enjoyment of it, and then you're going to want to back up a little bit and grab some of those concepts. But that's awesome. I'm really glad you're looking into the C# videos, because I really did enjoy making them. You've not looked into it, but is there anything in this new MS replacement for Newtonsoft that would help? So I haven't looked into it yet either, Simon. I still want to dig into, I do want to dig into that, but we'll see. So I think it could be potentially good. Either way, Who? Let me click at this. Oh man, that actually looks really fun. Okay, so sadly, this is the reason why I did not want to start my stream late. I am going to have to wrap the stream about here. Don't go anywhere. We are going to be doing a raid, so do stick around with us. The one thing I ask, you don't have to stick around in the channel that we go to for very long. I just want you to at least go with us, say hi, and that sort of thing. I am going to talk about a couple of other things, so these are actually some announcements that I think people will find interesting, so do stick around. The couple of things I want to mention, first off, if you didn't see, I did start a DevChatter Basics series on YouTube, so I'm going to be doing recorded, anyway, so recorded, like, pre-planned episodes, so I'm going to, you know, actually create content for and try to put some, like, foundational stuff on there, mostly C#, but obviously we'll have other languages as well, so be sure to check those out as they will start coming out. Right now I did a video on extension methods, and my next video that I'm working on, I've got most of the stuff scripted out for that, for the slides and things, and I need to come up with what the demos are going to be for looking at types and interfaces, which I'm hoping I can get both concepts in together. I think they're related enough and interesting, because I didn't want to talk about interfaces without talking about types, and so I was like, they almost need to be the same thing, so I shoved them together. We're gonna talk about both types and interfaces in C# so you can get a better understanding of that. So if that sounds interesting, hopefully that video will be coming out sometime soon. I do not have a scheduled date for when those are going to be going live. Again, link to our YouTube channel is there in the chat, and if you haven't subscribed to it, be sure to subscribe to that, because then you'll be able to actually see those videos when they go out. Let's see, other things I want to make sure I mention. If you're not in our Discord, then be sure to join, as it's a great way to chat with me and the other DevChatter community members. So Discord link in the chat as well as down below. Discord, yes, Minxie Rose, Discord, if you don't know what Discord is, it's a chat application that's commonly used by gamers, Twitch streamers, and the like. It's also used by some collaborative projects, so it is just a convenient chat application that a bunch of us use. It is good for customizing all your notifications and things like that. So if you do start joining Discords, make sure that you adjust notifications. One of the things that always kills me is when someone joins Discords and then they're like, I was getting too many notifications, so I turned it off. And it's like, just turn off the notifications. Just mute the channels you don't care about, and then configure your notification settings to only notify you when you're actually mentioned. And then you're welcome to join any conversations you want when you're paying attention, or if someone pings you about something. But it's good stuff. Have I tried out Go or Rust? So, after time, I have not messed with Go or Rust in any real projects yet. I have looked at them. They both look fairly cool. The stance that I would say is, yeah, if you've got a project where you want to try that out, I would say go for it, because they both have great reputations for things. I really encourage people to check out, like, if a language, if a framework, if any new concept of programming sounds fun and interesting to you, give it a try. Just grab a project and do it. That's part of the reason why this project is like WPF.NET Core, because I was like, I haven't actually done that in forever. Like, let's go mess with it. Sounds fun. And so we're running it on the preview. I figure it's probably stable enough, because they want WPF to match what it was in like the full framework version, that I am not expecting massive changes to make it function. So, yeah, so as Gareth mentioned, so sometimes if you don't get why you'd want to use something, so you have two options at that point. You can either dig in further, and figure out, like, really try to get a better understanding of it, because that's one option, or the other one is just do something else. Which either answer's fine. That's one of the great things about being in like the programming space is, hey, if you think, yeah, so as Janiska mentioned, so like Gareth really likes F#. So if that's cool and fun, do it. Cool. Go for it. If that doesn't sound interesting to you, or it's like too mind-bending, your brain, you have trouble figuring it out, cool, do something else. You're like, That's the fun part, is like we can all just work on stuff, and it's really great. So, and the communities are awesome. So it's good stuff. Do you know Twitch migrated their entire infrastructure and services to Go as a back end and React as the front end? That does not terribly surprise me. So many services are, like, so many organizations are trying to switch all their services onto the I'll call it the new hotness of stuff that's out there. And there's some good reasons, there's some bad reasons. But with Twitch, they you know, they have to handle quite the scale. So I totally get why they want to be on a framework like React that is as customizable as it is, because done well, they can do some amazing things with these. So exactly, as Aftertime mentioned, scaling. Yep. That is the reason. So to be able to run things at the scale that that Twitch needs to, it is important to be able to do some things. Now, we mentioned that you can scale really big with other services as too. There are a lot of options for scaling. Keep in mind that like, you know, Stack Overflow, for example, is another thing. Has to scale reasonably well. It runs in C#, and there are a lot of other services that do as well. So the trick is building the structure and writing the code the way that makes sense to be able to scale effectively. So there is you know, a wealth of knowledge just in that aspect, regardless of the platform that you use. Okay, so let's see. I mentioned Discord. I mentioned YouTube. Yeah. So I guess that sounds good. I will click a button then. So I want to make sure that I thank everybody for coming out today and joining us for this stream. Hopefully our next one will be on Monday. I have someone trying to schedule a meeting over top of our Monday stream time, so I apologize if I end up having to do that instead, which would kind of suck, but there is a chance of it. But I do want to do a couple of things here. First off, I want to roll our credits because we had a bunch of awesome people show up today. So stick around because we are going to be doing that raid here in a little bit. So first off, I want to thank our moderators, Katrina and S&B, for hanging out with us today. Wow, we only had one follower. Well, either way, thank you for following. If anyone else hasn't, please do. And S&B, Nate, and Gareth, thank you very much for the resubs. What, I think it was 12-month, 13-month, and 10-month resubs, I think, if I remember the numbers correctly. Either way, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Sorry about the stream being short. As I said, I got caught in the rain, so I wasn't even able to get home until well after the stream. And yes, Katrina with the Grinodon. Katrina probably had a share button and didn't click it. So thank you for the resub all the same, Katrina, because I don't remember when you got your smiling Chatosaurus there. But yeah, we will be back Monday or Tuesday this coming week. Hopefully with a pretty good stream. I would like to get us... I want to get this application to the point where we can talk about actually structuring it, because I want to talk about the publishing process for it so that we can build a... See, there it is. Katrina did have a share button. And thank you very much for the 12-month resub there, Katrina. That's your Chatosaurus sub there. Okay, so I will click that button, toss us to our outro screen, and then let's all say hi when we get over there, because it'll be a good one. So thanks for hanging out today, everyone. I will see you next time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Hopefully you can get out in the nice weather, if it is nice where you are, and I will see you then. Happy coding, everyone. Bye.